My name's Alex Gubran. I'm the trainee representative on the BAS Exec Committee. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming to the trainee session and welcome. I hope you're all very well. We've got around about 45 minutes to go over and cover some ground that we think is going to be important to us moving forward. We've got some updates from our specialist society and the trainee subcommittees thereof. And then we've got some talks about some of the various fellowships that are available. We, as a community, want to be as collaborative and open and as we possibly can. So please, we'd love this session to be as interactive as possible. So please do ask questions and make points as we go. I hope you enjoy the rest of the session. So to start with, we've got an update from the BAS trainee subcommittee. So I'll invite Al Durst up to the podium.
Actually, the BSS committee will start first, so we invite Adam Lloyd.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, gents. I'm Adam Lloyd. I'm the Senior Spinal Trainee on the Birmingham Orthopaedic Programme, and I was very privileged to be appointed the BSS National Trainee Lead at the BSS meeting in November last year. I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time just to talk about a few of my priorities in my time as the Trainee Lead, and to update on some BSS-related events. So the first shameless plug is, if you're not already a member of the BSS and you are less than the grade of a consultant or an allied health professional, please join the BSS. It's only a £30 annual fee, a couple more years of inflation, you won't be able to buy a sandwich for that much. So it represents very good value for money, and it really is a great society to be a member of. There's lots of opportunities, lots of ways of getting involved. One of the things I've been quite keen on is to try and increase educational opportunities for trainees within the world of spinal deformity. And the first of these initiatives is going to be the shortly to be advertised scoliosis school. This is going to be a webinar series via Teams. There'll be expert faculty on a variety of different topics over a number of different weeks, and should be a really excellent opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about deformity. I'm also hoping, though it'll take a little bit more work, to implement an online educational resource through the BSS website. Any of you who may be familiar with the SRS online resource, you'll get a flavour of the kind of thing that I'm hoping to achieve here, but give it a much more UK-based feel. And the further details of all of those initiatives are going to be published by the newsletter and for neurosurgical and orthopaedic training programs nationally in due course. In regards to opportunities through the BSS, we'll hear from a variety of other different individuals other than myself, but there are lots of opportunities that the BSS helps to facilitate, the first of which being the BOA Future Leaders Programme, which has been supported in the past and is going to go forward again. The BAS and BSS President's Travelling Fellowship, which we'll hear from the gentleman on the second row with shortly. And from research opportunities, BSS and BAS, along with OR UK, have funded research fellowships in the past. And in regards to the BASIS study, if you are in a trainee in your local hospital and you see patients with adolescent idiopathic scoliosis, please talk to your programme there about becoming a principal investigator for the BASIS study and help to recruit some patients. In terms of future events coming forward, we've got the 2023 meeting on the 9th and the 10th of November in Liverpool. It's a fantastic opportunity to showcase your work, and a call for abstracts will be going out in due course. And it'd be great to see as many people there as possible. And finally, I'd be very happy to hear from anybody in regards to any research ideas, collaboratives, any advice for career support or networking, and please email me on that email address. As Alex and Al have already mentioned, we're very keen to develop a network of young, budding spinal surgeons that'll be important going forward, and the earlier that we try and introduce and get us all talking and develop those relationships across multiple sites across the UK, and hopefully one day internationally, the better. Thank you very much.
Any questions at all from the floor? We spoke sort of informally about, a bit of cross-pollination between the trainee committees from BSS and BAS. Is that something that we can hope to see in the sort of coming year or two?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think shortly there will be an advertisement for the equivalent of myself with BAS, and I'd be very keen to obviously start a dialogue with that individual about how we can work together further. And I think a lot of the ideas that I have and a lot of the things that we'd like to start, and certainly from our conversations going forward, like to see more of going forward, is going to involve quite a lot of close working between the societies, and I think that's only a good thing.
Thank you very much.
Hi guys, my name's Al Durst, and I'm going to talk about what we as a training committee for BAS have tried to achieve over the past couple of years. Wouldn't be possible to have done any of this stuff without the hard work of everyone whose name's on that slide, as well as the people who have supported us within executive committees, encouraged us to do things as well. So if there are any consultants in the room, which I can see, please encourage your own trainees to get involved, support them in the collaborative research that we've been doing and will continue to do going forward. And as Alex and Adam have already said, let's try and build a community. So, first plug, there will be quite a few plugs. Tomorrow in the Alsh room, there is a trainee breakfast, or rather a young surgeon's breakfast. If you're not a surgeon, you're more than welcome. If you don't consider yourself young but would like some breakfast, you're more than welcome. There are some consultants coming. There are people who have fellowship experience. The whole point is to just talk about whatever people want to talk about. It's an informal place to have a chat. But also, if people do want to talk about career advice, then there will be people on hand to do that as well. So, second plug, if you are not a member of BAS as a trainee member, please become one. Same as BSS, there are benefits. One of the benefits is coming slightly cheaper to BritSpine. I think it's more than half the price difference if you are a trainee member. So, we sent an email out, or Alex rather did, which said we were looking for an enthusiastic group of people who would take an active role in trying to help educate and do some quality improvement and research, and then maybe sort of build some of the pathways that we have after the pandemic that have been a little bit more difficult, become a close-knit collaborative, and help promote and engage our community, because we were both interface fellowships, just like Ed, who's going to present in a little while, and we strongly believe that the potential trainee divide that we have as neuro and orthopedic surgeons is a bridge we wanted to cross. There have been lots of talks about inclusion. We wanted to make an inclusive society and group of people coming through. And we thought that part of what would happen with the subcommittee would be work towards that. So these are the guys who are on the subcommittee. You can see some of them in the audience. Different roles. So going from the top left-hand corner, you can see Alex giving his model pose. There's me in full Movember mode. Paul and Surya, who are our education reps. Priyanka and Martinique, who were our research reps. Danny at the bottom right-hand corner, who was our webmaster. Wing, who is in the corner taking pictures and doing some tweets, who is our social media guru. Ed, who will be presenting on fellowships in a little while. Phil and Kareem, who are our speciality reps. And we also had a medical student rep called Karen. And we've had interaction with medical students. Even though they can't become BAS members, we've had lots of people who have shown interest at that level. As Adam says, coming soon, we will be trying to recruit new people to take over the work that we've been doing. So look out for adverts, but let's talk about what we have tried to achieve and what some people have managed to achieve. Starting off with Wing-Sun with the social media update, she has been phenomenal. So went from essentially not having anyone on Twitter to 400 followers who are regularly interacting with the work that she does. And there's been a lot of engagement. Some months we've had over 25,000 people engaging with that Twitter site. lots of profile visits. Sometimes we're getting 2,000 people at a time or a month. And as well as that, what she's doing is advertising the trainee projects that we're running, which we'll talk about later. Some of them are being discussed in the research meeting tomorrow. Promoting Case of the Month, which the education guys have been doing with the exec, and conferences. So this is a tweet that was sent out a little bit earlier, and I'm sure if you're on the BAS trainee Twitter right now, there's probably a picture of us talking. And then engaging others, so following other people and doing tweetorials. And if you don't know what that is, you could find out on Google. Danny, who was our website representative, did a lot of extensive work with the website with Henry. And a lot of it was putting contemporary research on, linked to some of the different projects that we're doing, advertising the collaborative research work, working extensively on the CLIP study, which will be presented tomorrow in part, but I'll talk a little bit about that, and also working with quite a lot of education. And this is what the trainee website looks like. There are different sites on there, or different elements of the website, which talk through the different work that we've done, some interesting or helpful things for ladies in surgery, people who've got kids, different CCT and post-CCT fellowships that are available as well. And this is what I was telling you about the discounted tickets. So, Ed was our fellow representative, and he has managed to compile a database of all the UK fellowships across the country. It's not fully shared on the website at the moment, but that was a lot of hard work. In addition to that, he's placed a lot of resources, which you can see some of on the right-hand side of the screen, from different places which can help support different fellows, and has been doing work with ongoing webinars, fellowships, and interacting with people about their own personal expectations. Lots of hard work from Surya and Paul with Case of the Month. That happens every first Tuesday. Everyone is welcome to join that. A lot of consultants do, but that's continuing the hard work that Zach Silk did. And a lot of what we built on was really based on what Zach had done during and just before the pandemic. And one of the things that Surya has been doing is creating a Surviving a Spine on Call series. So we asked our membership what they thought would be useful from our society. And even though we don't have lots of subscribers to the BAS YouTube at the moment, as the videos get uploaded this summer, we hope that that will be an educational resource useful in a similar way to some of the other specialist societies that are out there. Martinique was our research fellow after being the webmaster a couple of years ago, and she did a lot of work and was a driver really in our vertebral compression fracture multi-centre initiative that was presented at BAS recently, and it's currently in the submission phase. That would be maybe the second or third paper that the committee has put together. The people who took over from her, Danny, who's our webmaster, and Priyanka, who has worked really hard on the next study that we are currently working on, launched in January, about CSF, or incidental durotomy leakage, and the way that different centres in the country manage it. We've got 40 centres who have registered, are collecting information on that, and hopefully the results will be presented at BAS 2024, possibly published at that point already. So, another plug for the committee. And finally, I'm a keen supporter of Movember. I know that someone in our community has recently had some complications from prostate cancer, and talking to a few colleagues and friends, I think it would be a nice show of solidarity if this November people, if they wanted to, could join in with us in supporting Movember, but also the hardship that he may be going through, and other people who are affected by that as well. Another plug for the breakfast tomorrow, and that concludes what we're talking about.
Thank you very much, Hal. Any questions at all from the floor about that? But as Al says, please, 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 if you are keen to get involved or to add or to help the trainee community grow, please get in touch. And if you know of trainees that would be interested in doing so, point them in our direction, please.
Next up is Ed Dyson, our fellowship representative, talking, strangely enough, about fellowships.
So I'm just going to talk to you about the training interface group fellowships for neurosurgical and orthopedic trainees who have completed their training, of which I'm one of the current ones and the representative of them. And I'm based at National Hospital at Queen's Square and the Royal National Orthopedic Hospital in Stanmore. So I'm the current representative. I mentioned it's not really a conflict of interest. And what the JCST and the training interface group want to develop is a bunch of STIGs who are supervised by their elderly consultant senior colleagues who are maybe less politically incorrect than this STIG supervisor. This all came about in 2008 from the need to train people who have come in not spinal surgery originally, but hand surgery, cleft lip and palate surgery, where there was an unmet need for training in plastics and orthopedics, for example, ENT and plastics. And in 2017, a spinal surgery training interface group was proposed, which started eventually in 2020 with the first fellows, Al and Alex, my predecessors, and it's now since become a post-CCT fellowship, just this year for the first time. There are 2 to 4 fellows per year. 2 fellows have been appointed for next year already, and some more funding's become available, and another application has been put out, and there may be 1 or 2 more fellows, so if anybody in the audience is interested, then please make sure you put your application in. The training interface group consists of Mr. Galash as the chair now, representatives from neurosurgery and orthopedics, BAS, BSS, the SBNS, myself, and members of the JCST. And it's essentially there are some quality indicators for any of these fellowships, and I'll mention briefly how to apply if, as a trainee, you're interested in your centre hosting a STIG fellowship, but essentially they need to contain at least an outpatient clinic per week, plus specialist clinics where available, a minimum of 2 consultant-led theatre lists, MDT meetings, and training in independent decision-making. Just realised the screen's in front of me as well. The STIG curriculum has identified a number of quality indicators in training, technical skills, leadership management, need to travel to other centres to visit other techniques, study sessions, audit, research, and attending meetings such as this. There is a formal curriculum, like with all training programs in neurosurgery and orthopedics, in any surgical specialty. The curriculum is available on the JCST website. It's 60 pages long, but I've put a few, just a sort of condensed part of it. But essentially, trainees are assessed against different capabilities in practice, levels 1 to 5, 1 being only able to observe a procedure and 5 being above the level expected of a new consultant, and also assessed against a series of generic professional capabilities in 9 domains. And it's very formally assessed, and the ISCP website is used as in other surgical training schemes with workplace-based assessments, etc. There's a formal list of procedures which one is expected to become proficient to a different level in, levels 1 to 4, depending on the complexity of the procedure. And all of these things would be expected to be experienced in a year of the STIG fellowship. Number of critical conditions, again, like in all the other surgical curricula, and index procedures. So it is essentially a 1-year condensed training program with as much formality as any of the other recognised training programs. It's all documented on ISCP with workplace-based assessments, learning agreements, assigned educational supervisor, and we currently have these about 10 centres recognised. Potential applicants need to apply through the Oriel system, again, like any other formal training program, and place their preferences through the system once they've been shortlisted, if they're successful. Like I said, there's a second round out at the moment. There's a competitive interview process, portfolio clinical and management components, and briefly my experience, I've been very lucky to be in 2 very big neurosurgical and orthopedic centres where most aspects of spinal surgery are represented between them. This is probably a bit small to experience, but this is just a sort of example of what one might expect to experience across 2 such centres. So this is 7 months of experience, a total of nearly 230 cases in 7 months, and an extremely broad spread amongst craniocervical junction, intradural pathology, scoliosis correction, anterior and posterior, and more or less anything you could think of. So that's been a pretty thorough representation of hopefully what most people do. Any questions at all?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ed. Ed, I'm sort of unashamedly biased, as I'm a graduate of the STIG program, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity and fellowship design. How can any of us find out a little bit more about the ins and outs of the STIG and the centres that are getting involved?
I think for an individual experience, tomorrow morning I'll try and be at breakfast.
Okay.
And I'm sure you both will as well, so we can talk to people on an individual basis. There's plenty of information on the BAS website, also the UKSSB website, the JCST website. There's a lot of resources there. I'm very happy for people to contact me as the fellowship rep or any of the other STIG reps, STIG fellows who are here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think next we are going to hear from the travelling fellows from the BSS and BAS societies.
Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about our recent travelling fellowship. My name's Surya. We've got Tom, Desmond and Nitin, so you get 4 for the price of 1. So this is a joint travelling fellowship sponsored by the BAS and the British Scoliosis Society. Again, and unashamedly plugging both societies. You need to be a member of one or both in order to apply for the fellowship. It's open for both neurosurgical and orthopaedic trainees, and the whole point of it was to have both specialities and to learn from each other and have a few arguments over a couple of drinks as well. I want to get the thank yous out of the way first. Big thank you to the senior surgeons who are at the various hospitals, David Cummings, Chip Francis, London Lutchman, our very own Tom, Dave Fender up in Newcastle, Asher Cole and Ed Bailey in Sheffield. Seneca was a Roman philosopher, and he couldn't have said it better, really. Travel and change of place impart new vigour to the mind. And I feel that's how we felt doing the travelling fellowship. We felt that visiting various regions, as well as the specialty hospitals, reinvigorated our thirst for knowledge, as well as opening our minds to various thought processes, as well as services. We did set out some educational goals at the beginning. So these were to explore the regional variations, where hopefully we can bring bits back to our own practice of where we may end up as a consultant. Learn from different senior colleagues with regards to their surgical philosophies and treatment algorithms. And also to look at departmental organizations, because playing a big part in consultant life is trying to shape a department and services around you. So we travelled through 5 major spinal units. We went to Norwich, Ipswich, Cambridge, Newcastle and Sheffield. This covered 2 weeks in total, a lot of driving, and we had exposure to over 30 consultants. We had other goals, which was to hopefully make lifelong friendships and develop these long bonds throughout a hopeful long and fruitful spinal career. I'll hand you over to Desmond now.
So this was our first day, the first and second day at Ipswich, and we were exposed to, as you can see, a variety of spinal procedures. I think one of the things, some of the striking points here is the discussion that precedes all these procedures. So we had a lot of discussion with the consultants, and they were able to just tell us the reason why they chose to do these procedures. And I think it's very fruitful for us that we were able to have not only seen the procedure, how the masters do them, but also be able to discuss with them to see their thinking behind the chosen procedures. And this is also in this week with Mr. Cummings, and I think I was able to see one of the fastest MIST leave that I've ever seen before with Mr. David Cummings. It's still very, impressive to me. So I think we're one of the other innovation at Ipswich. So this is a HOMAS retractor. I haven't seen this before, but I think this is something that's been, in use at Ipswich for some time. Day 3, so at Cambridge, so we're able to join two very experienced neurospinal surgeons. We saw this, the arachnoid web excision, and also simultaneous spinal surgery done on the same patient, which I think is one of the things that you can actually move things if you have a very good rapport with the team. This operation was started about 5 o'clock and in the evening, which is unbelievable. I don't know any hospital that can do that. But Mr. Trivedi was able to pull the plug and make sure, and this was done. And within 2 hours, the patient was already getting transferred back to the bed. So we did a bit of practice with Mr. Francis there, so which is also quite impressive. And this picture with the legends. So we moved to Norwich, and this was very impressive. I can tell you that one of the things that is really striking to me is the fact that we have few consultants doing making decisions even on one patient, and they have like kind of a mega clinic where 2 or 3 consultants actually discuss about the patient and actually went to see the patient, they'll go to see the patient and be able to present the joint decision to the patient. I don't think you can beat that. I haven't seen that before, and I've never read that. And so this is some of the things that, the lectures we had there. We had some other lectures there. Was very, very impressive, and also lots of things about their complications and how you can, as traveling fellows, we can also prevent this in our own practice. And as punishment for that, we have to also present our own complication. And I did my own complication as a fellow. That's a white coat syndrome after ACDF at KE. So this is our picture on the last day. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nitin, fellow in the Leeds currently. So I'll be talking about what happened in the second week of our fellowship. First of all, thanks to all my mentors in the Leeds who helped me for 2 weeks of leave for my traveling fellowship, and then again 1 week for this conference. So basically, thanks to Jack Silk and Mr. Kamasan who helped me, because I didn't know about this traveling fellowship because I'm not orthopedic trainee from this country. So thanks to them. And then I read a very nice paper published in 2013 when this fellowship started, written by Dr. Rai from the Norwich Hospital, which mentions about how the fellowship program is there, and one of the fellows, Mr. Hani Anwar, the Starmore surgeon. So I thought of applying and luckily got selected. So I'm thankful to all BOSS members and my mentors. So day 6 and 7, we saw a few cases: ventral cord herniation, olive surgery. There was a little bit of vascular injury at that case, and then growth rod destruction. So for the learning point for me in my training was Mr. Fender, like he routinely does growth rod destructions without neuromonitoring. And so under controlled thing, that was a new thing to me, which is never mentioned in any book. Then AIS with the navigation. So he put few freehand screws and the rest of the screws he put under navigation, checked previous freehand screws. And the most impressive thing was I liked his planner on the operation theater. So we usually in Leeds and Stanmore, I think they draw the picture on the wall and then they follow the plan, but this was quite impressive. And then this is a photo with Mr. Fender with his treasure outside his operation theater. He spent 2 days with us. On the first day, we did all the scoliosis surgeries and then we went for bowling. That was quite impressive. And then the second, 8th, 9th, and 10th, the last 3 days of our fellowship, we spent in the Sheffield Hospital. So we saw the anterior correction of the scoli. They did the thoracoabdominal approach to fix the type 5 from the T11 to L3. It was quite impressive. The anterior scoliosis surgery is almost a lost art. Though in Leeds we do the Leeds procedure, but not like the type 5 curves all done anteriorly. I have seen only quite a few, so that was quite a learning point. And Mr. Lee and Mr. Reed did it quite impressively slick operation. He answered almost all my doubts, so it was quite nice. And then we went on the same day. Mr. Tom will explain about the.
So of course it wasn't all it wasn't all work. There was a bit of play. We went out for some nice meals, and the drug reps treated us well. The thing that sort of struck us most was that, so I was one of the consultants in one of the sort of entertaining places in Norwich, and we hadn't had fellows before, and we thought we wanted to put on a really good show. We wanted to make sure that everyone, number one, thought we were better than Cambridge, and number two, had a really good time. It was a real privilege to host as well as to attend, and I think that came across from the other centres as well. Everyone made a really big effort to make us feel welcome. Almost everything was attended by all consultants, and I think everyone felt as though it was a real big event, and we were really grateful for that, and I think everyone took it as seriously as we did. So this is, for example, the Sheffield guys who came out for some very nice food with us, and the Norwich, you can see again, well attended, and Newcastle the same. But for me, so I'm a consultant already, and I sort of had a bit of reservation about applying because, you know, it's a fellowship, and wondered whether I'd get out of it the same things. I went into it sort of with a different mindset to some of these guys, I think. Probably because I knew much more about what I don't know. After the first year and a half of being a consultant, all of a sudden all those massive gaps in my knowledge and things I didn't know become much more apparent. And it was, so I think from that point of view it was really interesting. But it was also about how to set up a service. So until you know where you're going to be working, until you've worked in it, you don't know the bits of your service that you wish were better, and how other people set those up, how they approach different parts of it. So the philosophy for management is one thing, but the philosophy for how you run your service, how you treat your patients, and how you provide that service is something that I've taken back, and we're sort of already in discussions about how we can do better. And I think for me there was a lot of thinking time. There was a lot of time where I could just sit down with some of these guys who spent a lot of years doing different things and just pick their brains about how they think about things, and how I should be thinking better about things as well. Loads and loads of intelligent discussion, and not all of them agreeing. You know, it was discussion. It wasn't just me listening to them, which was great too. And a whole ton of networking. So there's a whole bunch of people now that we all know, including each other, that we didn't know before. And even coming to this meeting, you know, I can shake a lot more hands than I could shake before I came. And I hope that will continue. And so for anyone who is thinking about joining this fellowship when you're a junior consultant, actually, I think I got probably more out of it than the other guys, because I know the stuff I don't know, rather than not knowing what you don't know, if you see what I mean. So we were really grateful and pleased to be going. And some of us even learned how to play pool for the first time, and it was, so it's not, it's the other things. It's the other things that you learn. It's embedding yourself in the culture, and so bowling and snooker and things like that were really, it's all good ways of making friends and useful skills for the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there any questions from the floor about the travelling fellowship from either of the societies?
Okay, well, we'll move on to our next travelling fellowship, which is Rebecca Williams.
Hello, thank you for the introduction. So my fellowship was sponsored by the Society of Back Pain Research, and I used that opportunity to visit an institute, AO, in Davos, in Switzerland. So my current research is generating a clinical treatment for lower back pain, which is associated with the degeneration of the IVD, because current treatments do not actually target the regeneration of the degenerative disc. So my PhD so far, and I'm near the end, writing up my thesis, is like a cell-based injectable treatment that has regenerative properties. So I predominantly work with cells. I firstly worked with porcine notochordal cells in biomaterials, and then screened for different biomaterials looking at alba gel, which is like HA gel, MP gel, and then MP gel with a bit of biology thrown in there. And then I next replace the cells with induced pluripotent stem cells that actually have that notochordal-like cell phenotype, and then I put them into biomaterials. So I'm trying to get at is, it's very much, I'm in lab, I'm working in putting cells in vitro, and mainly in a plate. So part of my project is a wider project called BritSpine. So in the circle is very much where I am at. So they have cells, they have biomaterials, they give it to me, and then I just work with them. And the project is basically part of a massive project that will go beyond me. And the next stage would be an ex vivo culture, and then animal model, and then veterinary patients, and then hopefully clinical trials. So I use that fellowship to then observe and see what I've been doing for 3 years, and see the next stage of that. So actually using that and putting that into an ex vivo organ culture model system. So fortunately, at AO Institute, they've designed their own organ model system by injecting enzymes into discs. And then they also have an IVD bioreactor that only 3 universities in Europe have. So, and also because I did my PhD bang smack in the middle of COVID, I didn't have the opportunity to visit a university facility. So I took that opportunity to do a little secondment out there. So I'll tell you a bit about the experiment that I did. So I worked with cow tails, which I haven't done before because mine was mainly porcine. So I removed the tissue and then cut them into single discs, and then remove the vertebrae and cartilage end plate. The single discs were put into a chamber around some media and top to tailed with some mesh caps and some spacers that depend on the size of the IVD. I then did a week study, so putting them into loads, and then at day 2 inject them with this enzyme to mimic disc degeneration under load, and then injecting with MP gel. So I actually got hands-on experience working with my gel, injecting it into an actual IVD, which is something that I really wanted to do as well. And then this is just a video of a multi-axle loading system that they have at AO. So you can program it to do whatever you want, like rotation-wise or, yeah. So what I gained from the experience, and I plug anyone to do this, is that I was able to actually visualize and see the next step of my project. This project's very much a translational project, and it was awesome to see and put that all together. I've taken the opportunity in Sheffield to shadow some surgeons, so yeah, for me it's all about visualizing and seeing what's out there. Also able to see the setup of another laboratory. It's also good to see what you don't know. And then I actually set up a meeting with an osteoarthritis professor, seeing what they're into, what they're looking into, and potentially if I wanted to go down that route. And with that, gaining networking and collaborative prospects. And then I was also able to present my PhD work to other different scientists that have different views and use that for my own benefit. So yeah, I really want to thank Sybil and Daniela AO, but most of all, I want to thank the Society of Back Pain Research for funding this. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Is there any questions at all?
I just want to say thanks for all the presentations today, and I just want to also add to some of the discussions about travelling fellowships more generally. I mean, we've spoke about Society of Back Pain Research and BAS and BSS, but you were right. You were great. It was great to mention that AO Spine supports these, but there's loads of other organisations. I would encourage people to look at the BOA, whether British Orthopaedic Association. Even if you're from a neurosurgical background, you can get some sort of temporary or honorary membership to apply for that. I managed to get up to £15,000 allocated to a travelling fellowship, which I used to go to the States. And I think there are a number of other organisations that can provide that kind of funding. So it is good to travel. You learn a huge amount, you build networks. It's great to bring some of those ideas back home. And I think by sort of expanding our experience as a group of sort of UK surgeons and healthcare professionals and researchers generally, I think it will lead to significant improvements in the future. So thanks for hosting this session.
And it continues that theme that we alluded to earlier on about cross-pollination. That was very interesting. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank
I think it probably ties in with the AGM, which will be happening in this room, I think, at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow, Zach will be one of the consultants giving some advice on fellowships. So you can tell that he is very knowledgeable. So if any trainees would like to have a chat, or even non-trainees, that would be good. And we encourage everyone from all disciplines to try and get involved in these sorts of things, because it's how we as a society will continue to expand. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone.